Just off the Istrian coast lies a place where time seems to blend Breuuni. A cluster of islands where Roman ruins peek through pine forests, where peacocks strut past 20th century villas, and where deer and zebras roam under the Mediterranean sun. Once a playground for royals, presidents, and movie stars, today Breuuni is a protected national park sanctuary of wild beauty and quiet glamour. Here, nature and history walk hand in hand, and every step tells a different story. Welcome to Breuonian Island, where past and present live in perfect harmony. Nestled in the turquoise waters near the ancient city of Pula, you'll find the Breuoni Islands' scattered dreamscape of 14 islands and islets floating in the Adriatic. A short boat ride across the sea from the charming village of Fasana takes you from the mainland to another world where time slows down and the scent of pine and salt lingers in the air. The largest island, Veli Breuun, is the heart of the archipelago and the one most visitors explore. Here, paths wind through untouched nature, ancient ruins, and wild olive groves that have stood for over 1,000 years. Today, Breuoni is a protected national park, inviting travelers to discover its peaceful landscapes, rich history, and rare blend of wilderness and legacy. Veli Breuun is a mosaic of sea, coastline, nature, and human-made structures each from a different era and of various sizes. The center of activity today lies near the pier on the side of the island facing the Istrian coast. Here, around the old church of St. Totane of Fate and Ten, Germanus, you'll find the oldest villas, hotels, and most of the tourist facilities and administrative buildings. In summer, this area buzzes with visitors arriving by boat from Fasana. From here, paths stretch out in every direction. Most tourists join guided walking tours around this part of the island or hop on the tourist train for a ride through just a small section. But the best way to explore Breuoni is on a bicycle or in a quiet electric car. Veli Breuun is large and full of surprises, from ancient ruins and quiet beaches to shady groves and open meadows. To truly take it all in, you'll want to spend at least a full day here, slowly uncovering its many layers. Both the bike and the electric car are silent, allowing you to slip gently through the landscape without disturbing the local wildlife. You'll ride past deer grazing, peacocks crossing the road, and birds calling from the treetops, experiencing nature up close in harmony and peace. A web of narrow paved roads winds through nearly every corner of the island, except for the presidential villa and restricted military zones. Riding through the peaceful shade of groves and meadows, then emerging at the coast with stunning sea views, is pure joy. To the north, narrow roads lead toward wide open meadows now, a golf course. Golf has been played on Breuoni since 1922, and the golden years came between the two world wars when some of the world's top players, aristocrats, and wealthy travelers came to enjoy this exotic Mediterranean course. In recent years, golf and tournaments have returned to the island once more. A bit further down the road, through grand wooden gates, you'll enter a true Safari Parker touch of Africa and other far-off lands in the heart of the Adriatic. Here, ostriches strut, zebras and llamas graze calmly, and the sacred Indian cow rests in the shade. The star of the show is Lanka, the gentle elephant who, like many other animals here, was a diplomatic gift from world leaders. Visitors can see all these animals just behind a simple wooden fence, up close but still in their natural rhythm calm, free and unbothered. There are no lions or tigers here, so the atmosphere stays peaceful as safari without predators, where harmony between species is part of the charm. You'll also find traditional Istrian animals, the Istrian ox, Bosch Careen, Istrian sheep Pramenka, donkeys, and goats a living tribute to the region's rural heritage. Long before Breuni became an island paradise, it was part of the Istrian mainland, shaped by the shifting seas of the Ice Age and layered in ancient stone. Here, horizontal bands of Cretaceous limestone form the bedrock, covered in rich red soil giving Istria its name, Red Istria. This pale, marble-like rock was once prized across Europe, shipped from Breuni old quarries to cities like Venice and Vienna. But go back even further, 130 million years, and Breuni stood on the shores of a tropical sea. Massive dinosaurs walked the muddy coastline, leaving behind footprints that turned to stone over time, then were lifted to this very spot by the slow grind of tectonic plates. Today, you can see these dinosaur tracks at 4 different sites on Veli Breun, where a life-size replica of a fierce theropod greets visitors. And just beyond, along the Zelenikovats Trail, even the gentle ripples of ancient waves are preserved in stone, a fossil memory of a forgotten world. A walk through Breuni is not just a journey through nature, it's a walk through over 4,000 years of human history. Scattered across the island are more than 100 archaeological sites, silent witnesses to the civilizations that once thrived here. People lived on Breuni as early as the Neolithic era, at the dawn of Mediterranean civilization. Later, during the Bronze Age, a fortified hilltop settlement, Gradina, rose above the northern side of Veriga Bay, still visible today. But it was with the arrival of the Romans that Breuni flourished. The island became a jewel of the Adriatic, an elite retreat for Rome's wealthy and powerful. In Veriga Bay, they built a luxurious villa complex with 3 terraces, temples, guest quarters, sports facilities and gardens, a paradise by the sea. The Roman villa once stretched along the entire bay, nearly a kilometre of coastline transformed into one of the most magnificent estates on the Adriatic. Some parts are still visible above ground, while others lie submerged beneath the sea, lost to time and the rising tides. Archaeology helps us piece together its former glory, intricate mosaics, colourful frescoes, elegant stuccos, and precious marble hint at its lavish design. The southern side of the bay held the residential villa, complete with 2 peristyles, open courtyards surrounded by columns. Nearby stood utility buildings, while the northern side was dedicated to production: wine, olives, wool, even fish farming. This is also where the baths, or thermae, were located. At the center of the bay rose temples to Neptune, the Capitoline Triad, and Venus, goddess of love and beauty. The entire complex was connected by both open and covered walkways, so not even rain could spoil a seaside stroll. The coast was fortified with massive stone blocks, now hidden beneath the water. Two piers once faced each other across the bay, and in between them stretched a heavy chain, the verriga, that gave the bay its name and protected the harbour. In this karst landscape, where fresh water was rare, rainwater was collected in cisterns and even piped in from nearby hills to irrigate the terraced gardens. Construction began in the 1st century BCE, and some parts of the villa remained in use until the 6th century. But like many ancient wonders, it slowly fell into ruin, its stones taken and reused, its temples among the first to be destroyed with the rise of Christianity. Today, only foundations remain, but with every step you can feel the echoes of Roman footsteps and the timeless beauty of Breuny. A leap into late antiquity takes us to the opposite side of the island, to the Byzantine castrum. Here, too, a Roman seaside villa once stood. By the end of the 4th century, it had grown into a small, fortified settlement, protected by walls 5 meters high. Inside the walls, houses were packed tightly alongside workshops, storage rooms, and production facilities for processing olives and grapes. There were bakeries, blacksmith forges, and farm buildings, every inch of space put to use within the stone defenses. Today, the foundations are still clearly visible, though it takes imagination to picture the bustle of life as it once was. The scent of fresh bread, the ringing of metalwork, the chatter of children and traders. Residents entered through one main gate and 4 smaller ones. The castrum thrived between the 6th and 8th centuries, gradually falling into decline afterward. Archaeological layers reveal the many rulers who passed through: Romans, Goths, Byzantines, Franks, and eventually the Venetians. In the 6th century, the Church of St. Mary was built just next to the settlement. A cemetery grew beside it. This became the longest-standing Christian building on the island, used through many changes right up to the 18th century. By the time Breuny fell under Venetian rule in 1331, the island was already losing its importance. Over the next 5 centuries, that decline only worsened. The population fled, driven away by waves of plague, malaria, wars, looting, and relentless exploitation. By the end of the 17th century, Breuny were nearly deserted. And that's exactly how Paul Kupelwieser found them when he first set foot on the island in the late 19th century. An Austrian industrialist who had built his fortune in iron and steel, Kupelwieser set his sights on an entirely different legacy in his later years: to transform this abandoned island into an elite resort and health retreat, with golf courses no less. At the time, the harbour held only a few buildings, piles of quarry stone, and a sparse landscape of cypress, laurel, and a few ancient olive and mulberry trees. With the help of Alois Chufar, a forestry expert, Kupelwieser turned Breuny's overgrown scrubland into a lush paradise. But before he could develop a spa destination, he had to tackle one major obstacle: malaria. The island's swampy terrain was infested with it, making any health tourism impossible. Kupelwieser enlisted none other than Robert Koch, the renowned German scientist and Nobel Prize winner. Through rigorous work and modern methods, Koch succeeded in eradicating malaria from Breuni, laying the foundation for its transformation. 2 decades later, the once empty harbor had become a luxurious coastal village. 5 hotels, 32 villas, and a full suite of resort facilities. Parks and forests were landscaped, archaeological sites were restored, a zoo and ostrich farm were added. Breuni even boasted a modern agricultural estate producing milk, wine, and other local products sold as far away as Vienna. The island was well connected, not only with nearby Pula, served by 4 to 5 boats a day, but also with major Adriatic ports. Guests from Vienna could board an overnight train and wake up at the dock in Pula, where a boat would be waiting to ferry them across to Breuni. This once-forgotten island had become a glamorous summer escape, a gathering place for Europe's elite. Names like Thomas Mann, James Joyce, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, and Kaiser Wilhelm II were all part of the golden age of Breuni. Breuni were open throughout the year, and the newly built pool was the highlight of a bold new vision to make the island a winter health resort. Plans were drawn up for a full sanatorium and wellness complex where guests could enjoy mud therapy, sea air inhalation, massages, hydrotherapy, medical diets, and other innovative treatments. Sadly, these grand ambitions were halted with the outbreak of World War I. After World War I, the island fell under Italian rule, but the former glory never quite returned. Then, in 1945, with the birth of Yugoslavia, the Breuni entered a brand new chapter as the private summer residence of President Tito. During the decades that followed, the island played host to 2 emperors, 6 kings, and over 60 world leaders. Among them were Queen Elizabeth II, Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, Egyptian President Nasser, and even Japan's Crown Prince Hirohito. Breuni also attracted Hollywood royalty, with icons like Sophia Loren, Elizabeth Taylor, and Richard Burton visiting the lush shores. Much of this storied past lives on in the permanent exhibitions, from the memories of an old Austrian and Josip Broz Tito on Breuni, located inside the former steam bathhouse. You can even see Tito's iconic dark green Cadillac. After Tito's death, Breuni were declared a national park in late 1983. Just a year later, visitors were finally allowed to explore the once restricted island. That's the spirit that greeted Croatia's independence, and today the Breuni Islands are once again shining as a world-class travel destination. Archaeological ruins and modern structures alike are seamlessly woven into the Landscapier harmonious mosaic of shady groves and wide-open meadows. Here, deer, peacocks, and rabbits roam freely and fearlessly, protected from hunting. In the height of summer, Breuni can feel more like an African savanna than a Mediterranean island. The deer are the stars of the show, especially the larger Wan's fallow deer and axis deer, both species introduced to the islands in the early 20th century for hunting. During the mating season, the air echoes with their deep calls, and it's not uncommon to witness antlered duels between rival stags. peacocks, also introduced, proudly strut across the lawns like they own the place, tails fanned in full splendor. Even the shyest of creatures, the rabbits, seem unusually bold here, hopping casually right beside walking trails and roads. A large portion of the islands is covered in forest, and Brioni's natural pride is the evergreen holm oak. These native trees dominate the landscape. Interestingly, the forest undergrowth is nearly absent, and the lower branches are trimmed as if by careful gardeners. But the gardeners are, in fact, the ever-hungry deer. Their constant nibbling gives the entire island the look of a perfectly manicured park with tree canopies, neatly trimmed at the exact height a deer can reach. But in the fenced-off areas of the island, nature runs wild more jungle than parkland. Between the tightly packed trees grows a thick underlayer of green shrubs, wild myrtle, strawberry tree, mock privet, and philaurea. Tangled vines, like the tough-toothed tendrils of smilax, wrap around tree trunks like barbed wire, making these areas almost impenetrable. As elsewhere on the Adriatic, parts of the island are covered in Maquisa degraded form of holm oak forest, even more difficult to traverse. The plant species are similar to those in oak woods, but the structure is very different. There's no vertical layering, just dense, bushy growth. Along the paths, Italian wall lizards dart about. They're not particularly shy and are often seen sunning themselves or even climbing trees, thanks to their sharp claws. In spring, you might catch them mid-flirtation, nibbling playfully at each other's tails. Some areas of Brioni are even barer than Maquis. These are known as garrig scrublands formed by overgrazing, logging, or natural erosion. Here, the vegetation is sparse and rocky, but hardy species like Spanish broom, tree heath, and lavender thrive. In spring, these open patches erupt in color, blanketed with wildflowers and buzzing with pollinators. Elsewhere on the islands, pine trees were planted to give the landscape a more Mediterranean flair, although they're not native here. Still, the squirrels don't seem to mind. They happily munch on pine cones without a care in the world. Deep in the forest, along the southern bay of Veliki Breun, lies the Céline Ornithological Reservoir, Quiet Surprise, tucked into the wild heart of the island. Once a medieval saltworks, it was transformed in the 1960s into two small lakes fringed with reeds. It looks and feels like a true wetland. Wading through the shallows, herons stalk their prey while ducks and coots glide across the water. Delicate waders like sandpipers and the occasional pied wagtail tiptoe through the muddy banks. It's hard to believe this scene unfolds in the middle of a rocky Adriatic island. It feels more like the Danube wetlands. A similar but smaller pond lies just a short walk from the hotel. Here, green frogs croak loudly as males compete for the attention of nearby females. On a dry branch, jutting from the water, a pond turtle might be seen sunbathing, ever alert to movement, ready to slip silently beneath the surface at the slightest sound. Still, ducks and moorhens paddle by peacefully, while flycatchers and other songbirds flutter in the treetops, their melodies drifting through the warm Mediterranean air. The shores of Breuny are mostly rocky, carved by time into striking sculptural forms. In sheltered coves, waves have piled up coarse gravel and in some places even fine, rounded pebbles. Yet even this stony coastline bursts into color in spring as hardy coastal plants bloom. Among them grows the rare and endangered yellow-horned poppy, a lesser-known cousin of the vibrant red poppy. Beyond Veliki and Mali Breuny, the archipelago includes 12 smaller islands and rocky islets. Though mostly uninhabited by humans, they are alive with seabirds. Some islets transform into bustling breeding colonies of yellow-legged gulls. As soon as you approach, a screeching white cloud lifts into the sky. Amid the dense shrubs and open patches of garrigue, dozens of nests lie scattered across the ground's simple arrangements of twigs and grass, holding 2 to 3 speckled eggs. The gulls defend their nests fiercely, swooping down from above or hissing from the ground. While gulls nest in the open, shagsa, marine cousin of the cormorant, prefer deeper cover, tucking their nests away in thick maquis. These sleek black birds are skilled divers, hunting fish underwater before returning to the rocky coast to dry their wings, spreading them wide in the sun. Breuny is a haven for birds, with over 160 recorded species, from year-round residents to seasonal. Young gulls, already nearly full-grown, still chase after their parents, begging for food with insistent cries. Beneath their feet, true residents of the shore are hard at work. Crabs scuttle between sea and land, living in both worlds, collecting scraps carried in by the tides. Sea anemones, too, thrive in this restless zone, capturing floating debris along the ever-moving boundary between water and earth. For most visitors, what lies beneath the surface remains out of reach, but it's one of Breuny's greatest treasures. As part of a protected national park, the surrounding sea is a safe haven where fish can breed and grow without disturbance, making the waters teeming with life. In late summer, large Mediterranean jellyfish drift through the blue, graceful and ghost-like, but harmless to humans. Floating beside them are comb jellies, glittering slightly as they're rocked gently by the currents. They too are safe to touch, no stings, just soft pulses of color. On the rocky seabed, algae and invertebrates dominate. Though the light fades with depth, there's no lack of color. Sponges, sea stars, and coralline algae create a vibrant underwater world for slow-moving creatures. But much of the seabed around Breuny is flat and silty, where sand and mud replace stone. At first glance, it seems dull until you notice the darker patches, like an underwater forest. These are meadows of seagrass, some of the richest yet most endangered ecosystems in the Adriatic. In these meadows, fish find shelter and nursery grounds, but they're also home to a wider community of marine life. Rising from this underwater prairie are noble pen shells giant bivalves, once common, now rare. On Briuni, they still grow large and cluster in groups, thanks to the abundant organic matter produced by the seagrass. Sadly, in recent years, pen shells have died off across much of the Adriatic, including here. Still, beneath the calm surface, Briuni's sea remains full of quiet wonder. Briuni are living proof that sustainable land use can protect natural heritage while still serving people. Here, nature and culture don't just coexist, they thrive together. Take the Briuni Mediterranean Garden, for example. Carefully nurtured, it's home to 169 plant species, both native and exotic. Wander through it, and you'll pass fragrant herbs, flowering shrubs, and trees from across the Mediterranean basin, and beyond each, one a piece of a living botanical collection. And then there's the olive tree. Not just any olive tree, a living monument over 1,600 years old, still bearing fruit after all this time. Its olives are harvested and cold-pressed into a precious golden oil, a small but powerful symbol of Briuni's cultivated landscape. This harmony between humans and nature defines Briunia National Park, shaped not only by wilderness, but also by thoughtful stewardship and deep respect for the land.